Hello everybody, this is Jasmina, and in this video I am going to talk about the more common type of castlegate. And if you hear the term castlegate, they're usually talking about this. This is different than the dragon castlegate. This castlegate uses water, not mountains. And because you can place water, man-made water counts in Feng Shui, this is why this is the more common one, because you can't place a mountain, but you can place water. You can only activate this castle gate in the sectors that are adjacent to the facing direction of your house. So if you have a south facing house, you can only use water in the southeast or the southwest to take advantage of the castle gate. If you have a southeast facing house, you can only use water in the south or the east. If water is in any other sector, it doesn't change your chart. And this is what the castle gate is used for, to change your chart if you don't have a good chart. So, like I said, castle gate takes your natal flying star chart and it modifies to create a replacement chart. This replacement chart sometimes is better, sometimes is worse. And the only time you would want to use that is if using it creates a better flying star chart. But it won't always. There are several versions of castlegate. They all require water, and they're all similar in certain ways. But the reason why there can be so many variations is because the original text, the ancient text, was written more like a poem than a set of directions. And this is because most of the time the information was passed on verbally, not in writing. And this leads to the ability to interpret the words in a slightly different manner. But there's enough similarity that you can see this is the same thing they're talking about. Now, some of these methods require that you tilt your main door, which in many parts of the world looks pretty strange. It also sometimes requires you to move your main door. And some don't have any required changes to your door, but they have stricter location requirements for where the water must be. So they're all a bit different, but they all have requirements that have to be met. There is a book entitled Secrets of Xuan Kong by Hong Hin Chung, and it has a really quite complete description and examples of one version of castlegate. But this is an unusual version, and I don't use it. And I actually don't know many masters who do, or any actually, except for maybe him. But this chart creates a replacement chart using the current period we're living in, that chart. And so there were some disadvantages to this. And unfortunately, your chart will change when we change periods. So if you were to try to do this in a house right now, you have less than 2 years before the chart would change. And unfortunately, you have to be pretty strict with the water. So if your house faces, let's say, north 1, you would have to have water in northwest 1 or northeast 1. It couldn't be in northeast 2 or northeast 3. So you have to be fairly strict about it. But the real problem is this replacement chart that is created using his system will change when the period changes, and most of the time the charts that are created in consecutive periods are not consistently good. I haven't looked at every single one, but the half dozen or so I've looked at, if you look at what we have for period 8 and you look at what we have for period 9, if it's good for period 8, it's not good for period 9. So this is the real disadvantage of this, and I do not use this type. This other one that I'm just calling the tilted door castlegate, it's usually just referred to as castlegate, is probably the most common form of the castlegate. And here you tilt your door. And if you are in Asia, a lot of times you will see doors like this. I've seen them. But in the rest of the world, this looks like you had a bad carpenter or a bad house builder. There are ways to incorporate this into a house that looks normal. The house I currently live in actually has the main door tilted 45 degrees to the facing direction of the house. And actually it works for us. But this was something we didn't design. It is in line with the wall, and it actually looks, normal enough. And that's just because of the way the house is laid out. Now, this does use the house's natal flying star chart to create a replacement chart. And that's good. And that's because this chart remains in effect when the period changes. So you don't have to worry about moving water when we change periods. It'll stay the way it is until you do something to change the period of your house, which is a bit more work. Now, typically, and this is quite typical, you have two locations. If you have an east-facing house, it could be in the northeast or the southeast. That's where you could have water. And one of these locations typically produces a much better chart than the other location. And that's the direction where you place the water, and that's the direction you must tilt your door towards. And you should tilt it so that the door actually sees, quote unquote, sees the water. And that isn't hard to do, but it can create a very strange looking door. Now, this is the one that is the least restrictive about the location of water within that sector. So you don't have to worry about matching your subdirections. As long as the door can point towards that water, you're good. The most direct translation I have seen of the castlegate from the ancient texts is explained by a young gentleman who has a YouTube channel called Feng Shui Expose, and you can find it by searching for that on YouTube. And he interprets it as straightforwardly as he can. In this case, it involves moving the door to the location, that sector, where the water is located. It does use the natal chart of the house, so it stays in place, and that's good. But moving a door can be rather expensive. And it can also make the layout of your house inside more difficult. Sometimes it requires quite a bit of modification to make this work well. But there's no reason why this can't be done. Now, this guy, this young man who is doing this Feng Shui Expose channel, does not call himself a master. I don't know how much experience he has, but he is actually one of the best in explaining what the ancient texts say, and he does it in English. So I do watch his channel quite a bit. Now, the castlegate that I use relies on having water in two narrow ranges in terms of angle. It uses the 64 hexagram ring and looks for Her2 and combo 10 combinations. Now, the reason why I like this method is because it is very consistent with the rest of the Flying Star system, where combo 10 and Her2 are important. And it makes sense because these things are linked. There is this kind of linkage. So this is an example of this piece of the 64 hexagram ring. The number that we care about is the number on top of the hexagram. And it is called the Xuankong element. This is a star that's associated with the direction, but it's not used. It's the number on top we care about. And you can find the complete ring in this book here, Xuan Kong Da Gua, Not Exactly for Dummies, by the same author as before. And the Not Exactly for Dummies is quite accurate. It's a pretty intense book, but it's also very, very useful. And I rely a lot on this book. Now, in this case, if we had a house that is 8 degrees, its facing direction is 8 degrees, it would put it in this sector here. And the number here is 6. So the HER2 combination with 6 is 1, and the combo 10 is 4. And we would be looking for, on this part of the ring, in the adjacent sectors, a 1 or a 4. We do see ones here, but if you put water in these locations, you don't change your flying star chart. There is no replacement chart. It's exactly what it was. It has to be in the adjacent sectors where you find the 1 or the 4. Now, the one thing I like about this is you don't have to change your door at all. You just leave your door where it is. It is basically important what your facing direction of your house is, not your door. And because it uses the house's natal chart again, you don't have it change with every period. The downside is you do have to know the direction of your house within a quite narrow range. So you should not use a compass because many places on the earth you're not going to get a good enough reading. And it's better to use either Google Maps or a survey, but you still have to take that UTM to north correction into account because you could be off by over half of this range here, because if you don't take this into account, if you happen to be in just certain locations. So this is something important, and I do have directions that you can do this, but of course if you hire me, I do all this for you, and you don't have to worry about all this. But I want you to know all the steps that I take just to see what's going on, and you might actually learn something that you can take advantage of yourself. So after all this, it basically boils down to this question: yes or no to actually using the castlegate. And basically, if you have a natal chart that has one of the 4 best or 4 strongest special formations, activating the castlegate almost always destroys this great formation. I don't know one that hasn't. So that would obviously be a no. However, if for some reason you don't have one of the special formations, or you cannot activate one of the special formations, then activating this castlegate may improve your flying star chart. Castlegate will only modify your flying star chart. It has no effect on your purple white or your Chi-Men chart, which are two other charts that are important. I'm going to have a video that discusses direct and indirect spirit at some point, and this idea or this method creates the idea or the method that you can put water in a certain 45-degree sector and it changes with every period. And this, if there's water there, whether it's natural or man-made, it can help you create and keep wealth. So most people want to use this. In period 8, it's rather irrelevant because this is a Xuan Kong method, and in the Xuan Kong method we are already in period 9. So if you want to use this, you can put water in the north, and it doesn't matter if it's north 1, 2, or 3. Now if we think about this, let's say you have a northeast facing house. Well, if you place water in the north, you might be activating the castlegate. And whether or not you want to activate the castlegate depends on what your natal chart is. So you might be worried about this. Can I put water and not activate the castle gate because I already have a great formation. The way you do this is with a little bit of care. Now, if you remember, the castle gate, each sector is only this wide. And there is either one or two sectors, I haven't seen one that has more, that you could tap into the castle gate. When you add the two sectors together, it's only 1/4 of the 45 degrees. So even if you had a north-east facing house, you could put water in the north as long as you avoided the two sectors that would activate the castle gate. And that's if you don't want to change your flying star chart. So let's go on to some examples. This is a period 8 house, east 1 facing, and it has the potential to be a 7-star robbery house. It has the right chart, and because we have a mountain and water, it will activate both of these. Now we do have to ignore the water here for now, pretend it's not there. With these two and the internal layout of this house being proper, and we're assuming it has it, it becomes a 7-star robbery house. And that's a fantastic house to have. However, without even checking, because there's so much water here, I know the castle gate is going to be activated as long as the water can be seen. And this is not good. These happen to be the two narrow sectors that will activate the castle gate for this particular house. And that will change this chart. And it will, with spoiler alert, it does destroy the 7-star robbery. Now, to create a castle gate chart, what you do is replace the facing star in the center by the base star where the water is located. Now the south is up here and the north is up here, so it's a little weird. You got to flip this around, and you get used to this when you do this on a regular basis. But once you get that number in there, you have to either fly it forward or backwards. And this is the rule. If you have a subdirection of 1, and it could be east, west, south, north, any of them, doesn't matter. You use this column, and if it's a 2 or a 3, they're identical, you use this column. And if it's an odd number that gets flown to the center, you fly in a positive direction. If it's even, you fly in a negative direction. So let's do this. Here, this is the location of the water, southeast, southeast. So there's a 7. We take the 7, put it in the middle. And it's an odd number with a 1 direction, so we fly forward. So that's 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is the new castle gate chart. And that will remove this chart, and this is the new chart. And this chart is not nearly as good as the natal chart, the original chart. Some of the worst things is you now open to a 5. This is where your main door is, and east in the middle. And you're opening to a 5, which is not great. It's not bad to have a 6 here, but it would be a lot better if it were 8. And so, this is just not a great house now with the water there. Now, if this is on your property, you can fill in that pond. But if this is on your neighbor's property, or maybe it's a lake, well, you can't do that. However, you can still fix this. If you build a fence, or a solid fence, a little wall basically, or just a whole bunch of trees and shrubs so that you cover the entire viewing, so that you completely block the view of this area of the lake. And you want to use evergreen trees because you don't want to see it in the winter. And this will completely remove the castle gate. So the castle gate is no longer there. If you can't see it, it can't affect you. That may seem weird, but that's the way Feng Shui works. and you go back to your original 7-star robbery chart. So this is how I would deal a case where you don't want to activate the castle gate. There are times, however, when you do. If you've watched my optimizing a existing house video, you will recognize this floor plan. And it also has the potential to be a 7-star robbery house. It is a period 8 East 2 facing house. But the problem is this would require the door to be, the main door to the house to be in this sector here. And the lot just does not allow it to happen. It would be a very strange house. And it would be just very, very weird. And but if we had a big lake out here and we had a road out here, it could work. It's just that we don't have that condition. We have a road here, and this is how you get into the house. So effectively, you would have to go to the back of the house, and it can't really collect any chi because you've just got a wall and some other houses. So it just won't work. Now, if you've watched that video, you will know we have decided to keep this door open. Originally, this part of the house, which is a laundry room, storage room, is not heated or cooled because then we don't have to pay property tax on it. We only pay it on this part. And but we can put in a temporary heating and cooling so that this can now have this door permanently open. We might even take it off the hinges. And this changes the center of the house. And when we did that, what we do is we improved the Chi-Men chart and we created a permanent pearl string formation in the purple-white chart. And there's some really good things if you can do this. Not every house can, but this one can. And the purple-white has an effect on your emotions and your thoughts. So if you have a permanently good pearl string formation in your, or parent string, you will be in general happier, your mood will be better, and you will also have more positive thoughts. And one other advantage is that it has a slight effect on improving the negative stars in your flying star chart. It doesn't do it all, but at least it helps push them in the good direction. Now, this is where I stopped in the optimizing an existing house video because I wanted to get this video done before I added anything. But the fact that we have this makes this 5 not quite so bad, but it's still pretty bad to have a 5 where we have a main door. Now, if we do a castle gate, this is what happens. In this case, the castle gate, we should have water here in the southeast because north is up here. And this now changes from a 5 to an 8. Much, much better to have your door open to an 8. And the 8 is in the same class as the 5. They're both earth stars. So that means that the chi that flows from here to this door to the bed, we get chi flow. That's important. Because this is really one big open room, the only other room in this is the bathroom, and we have a closet here, but that's irrelevant. That means that the energy, because this is not a wall, it's just a change in flooring, we get the energy to the kitchen and to the stove and everything. So this now becomes a really good house. This isn't as good as a 7-star robbery house, but it is a darn good house. Everything is better than in its original format with this door permanently closed. It's a much better house. And this is how I would look at doing somebody else's house. Would see what potential is there and make the most of it. So I'd like to thank you for watching. Please feel free to contact me here if you have any questions, or visit my ad-free website. You can also subscribe because I'll be having regular monthly videos for many of the special formations or special conditions, and I will have regular new videos. Thank you again for watching.